Welcome to Lunch and Learn. Our first Lunch and Learn Zoom meeting took place in April of 2020. As we begin this offering, we state our intention, as we did in the beginning, to cover forms of advocacy and share reliable sources of information on a variety of issues, consistent with our commitment to Catholic social teaching. In short, our responsibility to love of God and neighbor and our place in the created world. We welcome people of faith and all people of goodwill to the conversation, both as attendees and as presenters. Challenges that people face may mean that there is a response due, which sometimes is expressed in charity. Other times, what is experienced are injustices, and there's a need to examine the systems that have caused the injustice. It's always good to know of those embedded in our community who understand the challenges folks can face and can help them navigate through it. And today is no exception. Today, we are joined by Lisa Gavin and Steve Dressel from Iowa Legal Aid. Lisa is managing attorney at the Cedar Rapids office and has been involved in Iowa Legal Aid disaster work for many years. And Steve is a paralegal at the Hotline for Older Iowans and is in charge of disaster outreach to faith-based organizations. He's in the Des Moines office. And with that, I welcome Steve and Lisa, representatives of Iowa Legal Aid. Thank you.
Thank you, Kent. I appreciate your invitation for us to come and share a little bit about what we do and the challenges that we try to help people face across Iowa. We are one of the few, pretty much the only free legal assistance provider across the state. There are a few boutique legal aid places in some different metropolitan areas, but we're basically the biggest game in the state, the biggest game in town. My particular calling to this, I'm the faith-based coordinator, outreach coordinator for Iowa Legal Aid. Part of the reason why they asked me to do that is because I'm a certified campus minister in the Catholic Church, and I've had ministry positions. I've had legal positions as well. My first legal position was at a legal clinic that was established by a Roman Catholic priest in Chicago area. So I practiced in the Chicago area, and I did a variety of legal aid type of things. And then I went into ministry full time, and now I'm back in the legal ministry, so to speak. But I certainly share your desire to bring justice and so forth. With that, I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Gavin. I'm the managing attorney of the Cedar Rapids office of Iowa Legal Aid. But I also, and why I'm talking to you today, is I also do our disaster recovery work, and that is statewide. So I am involved both in the Eastern Iowa region, but also statewide. And I have been at Legal Aid since 1995. And what I thought I would do was give you a little background information about Iowa Legal Aid. You can move it up, Steve. We are a 501(c) nonprofit organization that was founded in 1977. And our mission is to serve eligible clients in civil law matters. So it's basically things that they're not entitled to a court-appointed attorney for. So it's the things that they don't have a right to an attorney for. And so we're able to help them in things that otherwise, if we weren't there, they would be doing on their own. We serve eligible clients in the entire state of Iowa. We have out of regional offices, we have regional offices in 10 cities, and we cover all 99 counties in Iowa. And this is kind of a map of our area, so you guys can see it. But we do have, and we'll talk about that everybody calls us on the same number and the same line and all of that to become a client of our office, but that's kind of how we divide it, kind of in work levels and things like that. And so I have our numbers of note. And so in 2022, which is the last I have accurate statistics for, we closed 12,815 cases closed across the state. This involves people that we've represented in court, represented at administrative hearing, that we've negotiated, and also people that have called us that we've given them advice or advice on how to represent themselves, or just advice to let them know what that they're handling the situation, you know, what's going to happen and things like that. So that's how many people we've got a hold of that were LSC clients. And of that, we also talked with 1,909 from the legal hotline for older Iowans, which is what Steve was talking about that he works on. And this is for people 60 and above in age. And so right now we have been kind of in a crisis with the cases that are coming into our office. This is as a result of the pandemic, and then the inflation crisis and the housing crisis. So right now, over 50% of our cases closed in 2022 involved housing. I am not seeing any difference in that now. I would say that it's still the same as it is now, because really and truly, we are dealing with the housing crisis, and that is kind of our number one priority. 10 years ago, it was an even split between housing and family law. I think now housing has just taken over what people need help with, because, you know, dealing with family law, you can't deal with that unless you have a place to live and a secure place for your family to go. So, and then talking about, so what we've done now is really prioritize the kind of legal problems that we can help people with. And one of those areas that we do is housing. And what does that involve? What can we talk people about? Number one is we talk to them about evictions, because we do have 6 eviction help desks. And I'm going to talk about that later, that we can help people, that we are at court and can help people deal with their evictions. But that is probably the number one thing. And then I would say the substandard living conditions, we can give tenants advice on their situation, because unfortunately, there are many rental units that are not up to code, that have some serious problems that we can give clients some advice about. What I'm seeing now, though, that makes it sad is, in the old days, we would say, hey, if their place isn't great, then, you know, terminate your tenancy and move on to somewhere else. But now that possibility has become really smaller. And so we have to deal with those issues and deal with those landlords. We also give people advice who are facing foreclosures, maybe because of a loss of job, they can't make their house payments. And we also talk to people who are buying their house on contract, which is kind of a cross between um, uh, a contract, a mortgage, and a rental agreement with none of the protections of either. So we just can give people advice on that. Family law, we help people with protective orders. So if they are the victim of domestic violence, we can help them to achieve safety. We can do sexual assault. protection orders, and we can also do protection orders in the area of elder abuse. And then we do some very limited, I think they would tell you what we can do now is on divorce and custody, but we can at least give people advice about their rights, advice about the process. We also get involved in consumer protection. So debt collection, if wage garnishments, if their landlord's got a judgment against them and is trying to collect from them, there are a lot of protections under the law. And so we can help people to prevent a wage garnishment. We can do some bankruptcies, and then in the area of public benefits, we can give people advice and answer their questions on a lot of Social Security and supplemental security income. People have questions on their veterans benefits. People have questions on their right to Medicaid, and maybe they're being terminated from Medicaid or from some of the Medicaid waiver programs. We can give advice on those. So that's kind of our priority legal issues that's talked about, and I did that pretty quickly, but kind of let you know what we can do.
Excellent. Thank
And
you.
In the, so I'm hearing a little bit of an echo. Okay. I'm sorry. I hope it's not disturbing to anybody else. Please let me know. Half of my time is dedicated to the hotline for older Iowans, and that's, as Lisa said, people 60 and above. And we certainly do, for the people 60 and above, we do things that she mentioned on the prior slide. We also do, through a special agreement with the AAA, the Area Agencies on Aging. I believe in your area, it's Milestones mostly, but also there's Heritage in Cedar Rapids. And they have a map that covers the whole state with different six different organizations. We have a special agreement with them to kind of handle their legal matters, or at least give advice on their legal matters. And so they wind up referring to us a lot of legal type of issues because they don't handle the legal type of things. So people, as you can imagine, people 60 and above have fixed incomes, additional vulnerabilities, and so we have additional funding to be able to try to address that. We handle advanced directives where people want to delegate a power of attorney to help get somebody to help them handle their affairs if they're not able to do that, or if something happens to them. They want to be able to living wills where they can get people to the medical community to understand what their desires are. Elder abuse protection, Lisa already mentioned that. We see scams and different things. We advise people on how to try to either prevent that or to recover from that. There's the elderly do face Medicaid issues in kind of unique ways where they might have to deal with property where one spouse or a partner needs to go into a nursing home for rehab or something, and then they would become eligible possibly for Medicaid, and the other person, there's a way of constructing their finances that makes it more affordable for them to be able to do that. So a Miller Trust addresses, when their income is just sort of slightly above poverty line, and they want to still be able to go into a nursing home or get extra care. Let's see, nursing home discharges are kind of a big thing where nursing homes may try to discharge somebody before they're either ready or there's a plan in place for them to be cared for in a good way, either at another home or at their home, themselves. And so sometimes people will call us saying, oh, they're going to discharge me like tomorrow, and I'm not ready, and my spouse isn't ready to take care of me, and my home isn't handicap accessible, and it's a rather fraught moment for them, and sometimes we can slow down that process and get the players to conform to the regulations that are supposed to take place there. So we handle extra issues for 60 and above. Some of the cases, Lisa already alluded to this, that we don't handle across the board pretty much are criminal law. You know, those are most often in criminal law, if the penalty can be above a certain level, then people might have a right to an attorney from the, you know, like a public defender. We don't handle immigration matters, and we acknowledge that that's a huge need, but it's not something that we've gotten into. There's kind of an exception to that, in that if somebody needs an order of protection, we might be able, you know, or has, you know, some domestic violence things, we might be able to handle something even if they are in the immigration, they're, you know, not documented or whatever. We can also sometimes, if they have a problem and somebody else is in their household who has that same problem, we can maybe shift the client over to somebody else in their household. For example, if it's a landlord-tenant matter and somebody who's undocumented calls us, then maybe we can shift it over to somebody who's documented in that same household and handle essentially their issue through somebody else being the client. We don't handle things that private attorneys can handle, often on a contingent fee basis. For example, medical malpractice or personal injury or auto accident lawsuits. We don't, you know, sue other people for money, basically because the private attorneys are available often to handle those lawsuits. We don't handle child support. We don't generally handle wage claims. There's other systems in place to handle that. Lisa, I don't know if you have anything to add to any of those things. I just wanted to.
Nope.
Okay. This next slide is kind of a review of what Lisa said earlier, but basically it's just a different visual way to kind of present it. The main areas that we do handle, again, are housing, safety and domestic violence, consumer law in terms of avoiding garnishments and preserving one's income, and so that they can keep their housing, keep their their utilities paid and everything. And then lastly, the benefits that they might receive, Social Security benefits. Sometimes people, especially with the pandemic, people were accused of getting overpaid in different ways that really surprised them. Sometimes even now we have a scenario where people's benefits might go up, but the net result is that if their benefits go up, it raises them above qualification, and therefore some of the services that they were available are no longer available to them because they now make over that amount. I hope that's understandable, but sometimes we just need to help them navigate. We don't always have good news for people, but basically we're there to kind of interpret the law and pass on the knowledge that we have and the changes that as they've come down the line. I think it's back to you, Lisa.
All right. And we are sometimes able to help people, and I will describe these in more detail later, but on tax issues, on issues related to a disaster, we can help people to access education, so issues getting children enrolled in schools, and we can give some advice on filing for bankruptcy. Okay, so I guess I wanted to stop just now to see if any of you have any questions for right now.
As people take the opportunity to think about a question, I would just say the history for our office and the diocese as it relates to legal aid as well as area agencies on aging goes back to the early 70s and the work of Monsignor Marvin Mottet. He understood that to have such support in local communities was essential for individuals and families. And so, and again, you're talking about part of a safety net in providing legal support to people who may find themselves in a situation they've never been in before, and because of financial means may not be able to access it in ways that others could. So yeah, this is all very, very helpful. I would also add that another group of folks that within our faith community that may at sometimes access or refer to Iowa Legal Aid are parish nurses and parish health ministries, because it may be a matter that somebody that would meet the qualifications of your services is experiencing trauma in their life or discomfort, uncertainties. And to be the parish nurse and parish health ministry are not just about like the physical health, but they see the efforts that are the challenges that people are facing. And then likewise, we're asked to be good neighbors. And so it may be the case that what we find is that our neighbor finds themselves in a very difficult situation and people don't know exactly what type of support there is. And sometimes when you're talking about critical matters such as income or the stability of housing, it's a good thing to be able to be aware of what Iowa Legal Aid provides to know, might this be a source of information for their specific situation. I'll have you go on the intake process because I'm watching the chat box and I see no questions being posed yet. So
Okay, sounds good. So for our intake process, and this is how do people become clients of Iowa Legal Aid? Primarily, they become clients of Iowa Legal Aid by calling in to our intake hours. And we do intake every day from 9 until 11 and from 1:30 until 3:30, except on Thursday afternoons when we only do emergencies, and that is so we can have staff meetings to staff the cases that have come in during the week. So what people can do is they can call our number, and that's off the end of this intake, and then they will talk to an intake screener who will make sure that they have the kind of case that we're able to handle, and that they are financially eligible for our services. And then once all of that is done, they will be assigned to an attorney, and it will depend. There are attorneys we have attorneys who take cases right away. So if people are calling us with something that is emergent and is going to need to be resolved in the next couple of days, they talk to one group of attorneys, and then they talk to another group they may talk to, and that's if somebody is calling for a divorce. So yes, they need to speak with an attorney, but maybe not that day. So then they go to our callback attorneys, and they'll be called back within 48 hours. And then if more assistance is needed, so we give people advice and talk to them about their situation and what's the best course of action for them and kind of what some options are available for them. If more assistance is needed, they have a court action or they're wanting to file a court action or something like that, then the case would be sent to the regional office. And then what we will do is staff it in the regional office to see if we have an attorney who's available and has the time and can help them with their hearing or whatever it is that they're needing help with. We generally take all cases up to 125% of the federal poverty level. We can take people up to 150% of the federal poverty level if they have some kind of debts and or expenses. And so almost everyone has those because you will, high food costs, the transportation expenses for work, car payments, maybe they have debts that they owe money to. So we can help them. And then we can go up to 200% of the federal poverty level for housing cases and for disaster cases. So, and then if people are 60 and over, that we receive the AAA funding from the Area Agency on Aging, that has no income or asset limitations. And then I am going to talk, we have some special projects, and one is the legal hotline for older Iowans, which Steve had talked about. One is the 2020 derecho project, and for those of you in Davenport were affected by the derecho, and we still have funding from that, and we are still getting clients that are suffering as a result of the 2020 derecho. What we're talking to people now about is some people still have insurance issues from that, and there are a lot of contractor issues, or because of those two things combined, they didn't get the work done, and now the city has tagged them and is doing some lawsuits on them for nuisance lawsuits for not having their house repaired and in a safe condition for the city. So we are still seeing them. If you got people that have problems from the derecho, definitely call us. We have a rural justice project, which I don't know as much about, but that does, it works with the AAA grants and to try to get people in rural areas to be better prepared for disasters as they occur. And then we have the eviction help desk, and we have expungement clinic, which for some clients who have criminal charges, this is a way to get cases that can be removed from their background check removed. And so we have someone who does clinics around the state, and so it helps people to clean up their background check as much as is allowed under the law. So it's not as much as people would like, but it is much as the law allows them to do right now. And then we also have in both Davenport and we have one in Cedar Rapids, a community schools project where we send an attorney into kind of a high needs elementary school in the district. And we talk to, and our goal is to talk to the parents about the legal problems that they are facing. So it's, even though we're in the school, we're not talking to the children about the legal problems, but the schools can give us a lot of referrals about families that are facing homelessness through evictions, families that are doubled up, families that are having domestic abuse crisis or are being sued by a garnishment. So just the families that are struggling, it allows us to help them and maybe to meet with them at the school. And so it's kind of a nice handoff from the school to us instead of, one more place to call.
We had
And
we have one quick question that we've had is in relation to rent abatement. And if I understand correctly, that is part of Iowa City, where if you have people that are paying rent and the city would fine them, fine the owner of the apartment for inadequate conditions, then the renter is not required to pay rent until that has been remedied. There's also talk of that in another metro area. Does Iowa Legal Aid keep tabs on where rent abatement is in place in order to be able to inform the general public that may call them on such matters? And I think we lost Lisa.
Lisa, okay. Okay. All right. I'll take this. She can jump in when she gets back to us. But essentially, every case is unique because I could quote you the law, but essentially, it has to be done. If somebody's going to withhold rent, it has to be done very, very judiciously and should be done under the advice of an attorney. Generally, I would say in most cases, clients hear this, or potential clients or tenants hear this, and they think, oh, I called them and they didn't come today to fix my toilet or my whatever it is. I can just not pay rent. And that's more often than not, that's not the case.
Right.
That you do have to pay rent. And even in Iowa City or other places that might have, special provisions or, that might lean, tilt the law a little bit more toward that direction. It's better to get legal advice, and it's usually better to pay the rent, so that you don't risk other things. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through in terms of the notice that you have to give to the landlord that this is what you're doing, and you have to have it, in writing and that type of thing. So I guess I would caution you about that. We generally are more reactive to that because so many different people have different situations, and sometimes landlords will let it go, and then all of a sudden fix it, and then we're moving on to the next problem, so to speak. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question, but basically it's done on a case by case basis. And I would just say, if anybody has that possibility, for them to just call us and to get legal advice. If it's something where there's a deadline, please specify the deadline, that they have, because often it's a quick turnaround that somebody needs if they have some sort of water's not working, whatever it is that air conditioning's not working when the heat season's coming up, that type of thing. We'll try to get to things in terms of order of urgency, that type of thing. So I don't know if the questioner has any follow-up on that or
well, I mean, I do think that Iowa City has undertaken a renter's abatement ordinance, and I think that Davenport is looking at one similarly. And so at the point that you have it as an ordinance, I'm assuming that the local legal aid office would be aware of that particular ordinance,
Right.
and be able to
Mhm.
explain to those who calling that. So I think that might get at some of that particular question. And again, it's in the chat box. The Quad City Times has an article from Monday's meeting about the potential development of such an ordinance through the city. Another question that came in: can a landlord evict someone in 7 days?
Again, it depends. If somebody, for the reason for their eviction.
They won't.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Welcome back.
I had some online problems, but I'm back. They can give the tenant a notice for 7 days in a certain circumstance, but the tenant will not be evicted in 7 days, because they have to go to court. The tenant cannot be evicted until there's a court hearing and a judge declares them to be in violation of the lease and that the landlord did everything correctly, and then evicts them. And in Davenport, those hearings are on Tuesday afternoons.
Another question was asked, it reads, is an undocumented individual eligible for legal aid? Not, from what I've understood you to say, not as it's relevant to their status, right? And they're not able to pursue legal status at legal permanent resident or citizenship by
Right.
way of Iowa legal aid. But if they were a victim of domestic violence or in a household where there is a matter and there is somebody else that may have legal status, they may be able to benefit by the type of guidance that Iowa legal aid could provide. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yep. We are able to help victims of domestic violence with divorces, custody orders, and protection regardless. And so like an eviction, if the parents are illegal or not lawfully present here, but the children are citizens or are lawfully present here, then we could do it because the argument is it benefits the children.
Okay.
So, okay, and
Go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, no problem. So I wanted to talk about the Scott County Eviction Diversion Help Desk. That is on, it is every Tuesday afternoon because that is when Scott County hears all of their evictions on Tuesday afternoon. And so basically the whole Davenport office, and sometimes they have fillers from other offices, go in, and the goal is to get everyone to be talked to and get advice and possible representation at the eviction, because our goal in this is that people are not evicted. So we try to help anyone that has a defense or is a wrongful eviction, or we can get it dismissed. But even for the ones that the landlord is doing everything correctly and they just don't have a defense, we try to try to negotiate a move out date. There is also people that sit with us from the community who have financial resources. So I think it's from the Salvation Army is there, and some other groups from the county that we can refer people to them to see if they can help them with rent money to avoid an eviction. We also have these help desks in probably the other 6 large cities in Iowa. We have a help desk in Iowa City, which is Monday afternoon. Council Bluffs, when they have eviction hearings. Waterloo, we're there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. In Des Moines, I think they're there every day, both morning and afternoon. And in Cedar Rapids, they're at the help desk every morning because the evictions have just spiraled. When I started doing this, and probably up until the derecho, we were maybe in Cedar Rapids having 3, maybe 4 evictions a day. Now we're having upwards of 15 a day. And I keep thinking it's going to stop, but it has been nonstop at this number since 2021. And we like to have clients show up 15 to 30 minutes before the hearing so that we can give them some advice. And I just saw, so if you don't mind, Steve, if I skip the hotline for right now and go to the Derecho Project. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about disaster, because we also We are involved in all disasters that take place across the state of Iowa. So we have been heavily involved in the Greenfield disaster, the Minden disaster, but also all the counties who didn't get disaster declarations or aren't getting FEMA assistance, but have had people that have experienced damage because of the wind, because of the rain, because of smaller tornadoes. So people can call us, and we are working with the Iowa State Bar Association, and I will send you guys the flyer that we have for this, that anybody that is currently experiencing a disaster from 2024 can call this number, and we are doing intakes at legal aid. And if the person is over income or are not eligible for legal aid, the Iowa State Bar Association has agreed to take the case and try to find a volunteer attorney for them. So
Wow.
that we're hoping that everyone who was affected by the disaster can speak with attorneys.
Wow. Excellent.
Yep. And so, and then because of that, we're also doing the disaster project from the August 10, 2020 derecho event
Hmm.
because people are still having problems, insurance, contractor, some FEMA audits, some lost important documents, and problems with landlords and repairs. And so those are the same things that we do with the current disaster people. And so we're doing a lot in the current disaster of giving people advice on landlord tenant situations because they have the right to terminate their agreement within 14 days of the disaster, get back prepaid rent and their security deposit. But we're also talking with people about insurance and contractors because our goal is to give people advice about hiring a contractor now
Hmm.
so that they hopefully won't run into the scams and the people that are not doing a good job or are trying to, to just, and I think what happens, I'll just tell you because I was affected in the 2008 Cedar Rapids flood.
Hmm.
And what happens is all you can think about is getting back to your home and getting it fixed and getting stuff back to normal that you lose your mind and all you can think about that. And I just think, oh my God, I am so lucky because I would have totally given somebody money and given them all the money because I'd have been like, okay, you can come to my house first. Here's all my money, and then what happens is then people give all their money and then there's not any incentive for the contractor to do them first because they've already been paid.
Hmm.
And so just kind of those issues of talking people through that so that they feel like they know, and then those problems will kind of develop as things go on. But right now it's landlord tenant, giving people advice on insurance, and FEMA appeals.
Wow. Very good.
And let's see.
So here's the derecho hotline number if people do have issues regarding that. If I can say just another word or two about the hotline now, the hotline has a different schedule in terms of when you might call in. I think Lisa mentioned earlier that it's that our general intake for people under 60 is 9 to 11 and 1:30 to 3:30 each day, except Thursday afternoons. The hotline is basically a callback system where people can call in from 9 until 4, except for the noon hour. So people above 60 can call in, and the number is listed there. And it's from 9 until 4. It's a callback system where if people leave deadlines that are applicable here, we try to address people with the sooner deadlines first. And prioritize the urgent cases. And then it's first come, first served after that. We can get, we can get anywhere between 30 and 70 calls a day. So it's a busy place. We will get back to people, but if they don't tell us that it's urgent, then we won't necessarily treat it as urgent, and we'll get back to them in a matter of days as opposed to that day. So do please have your people who are 60 and above call the hotline. They'll also be, if they call the general number, they will be routed to the hotline if they're above 60 typically too. So
and I wanted to say that you guys have our email contact information, because there may be some people that will have a harder time because of either physical problems or mental health issues that maybe will not be able to call on their own or things like that. So on those cases, you can definitely reach out to me and I can take a look at them and see if we can help them and have someone call them back or something like that. So, we can do that. I can't do that for everyone, but I can definitely do that for some that you think are going to need more help. And ways Iowa Legal Aid can work for you is just, making client referrals to us. And those are for any of those issues that we talked about, the disaster, the current disaster, the derecho, any of, they're having housing problems, family law problems. Any of those things can call us. We also are able to table events. If you would like us to table an event with you, we can do presentations to agency partners like this one, but we can also do these if you ever want us to present to a group of clients or potential clients. We can talk to them about any of the areas you want. If you want Iowa Legal Aid in general, or we can talk to a group about eviction problems or anything like that. And we do that quite often. We can basically if you want us to be involved in something, give me a call and or give me an email or whatever, and we can talk about it. And if someone's available and we can do it, we will sure try to do it.
Excellent. Very good.
We also have a justice bus. We have a bus that can be dispatched to disaster sites to possibly do intakes on site and be there to help people where there might not be electricity or whatever.
Wow. All very good.
Yep, and there's our contact information for anyone. And anyone who calls us, we have an interpretation service. And so they just need to say that they need an interpreter or even speak a language. Okay. And then the interpretation service we can hook up. I have never had it not be able to find an interpreter for the language a client spoke. Okay. And some of the common ones are very easy, Spanish, French. Today I had an interpreter for a client who speaks Kirawandi, and they found somebody right away. And so, but sometimes you got to wait a couple of minutes while they find somebody. But yep. So we've not had any, and so the African languages are the ones that are the hardest probably, but they're finding people. I've always had them find somebody.
Very good.
Are you seeing any other questions or anything at this point?
I am not. I think we covered the ones that have presented. I would say to both of you, Lisa and Steve, I really appreciate the opportunity that you've given to give us more information about Iowa Legal Aid. Our intention is to share the recording with those who may not have been able to be here for the live event. I did mention there are some particular groups, local people, parish health ministers, parish nurses, just involved neighbors to be able to be aware of it as a resource in moments when a neighbor or a friend or loved one finds themselves in a particular situation with income or safety or responding to a disaster or housing, that it's comforting to know that there are folks who are well situated across the state to be able to handle these matters.
And I just wanted to throw this out. I see that Glenn Leach is on the phone. I have helped him and we have worked together on many, many disasters through the years, and just wanted to say, hey.
Glenn Leach is one of those who's incredibly knowledgeable, resourceful, and helps us stay connected by way of disaster preparedness and response. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn is very valuable member of our team.
You are in super good hands with him.
Indeed. I think that concludes June's Lunch and Learn. We'll take a summer break, but we'll return on Thursday, September 5th, when Mark Swanson from Growing Hope Globally will share information about their organization that connects local farming efforts with brothers and sisters in developing countries who raise crops and livestock in their part of the world. And so again, I want to thank Steve and Lisa, those of you that are joining us for the live event. Have a great and safe summer. Peace and all good.
Thank you.